In this episode of Cycling Tours, I will explore how you can commute using the cycling network of Changi Simei. Hello everybody, Transit Evolution here once again to review the cycling infrastructure in place within the LTA cycling town of Changi Simei. I guess you may find it a little strange that this place has a double-barreled name for a cycling town. Well, perhaps it arises from being one of the earliest housing estates to be investigated for an intra-town cycling path network back in 2010. For this video, I will be starting the journey at Upper Changi MRT station and ending at Simei MRT station, as the cycling path network here nearly connects to both stations. I said nearly because the shared path only starts here, at the intersection of Simei Road with Upper Changi Road East. This is one of the newer additions which was painted later, due to Simei Road's realignment and intersection widening in 2017. The shared path will come to an end over here at a mid-block bicycle crossing, where I will have to cross the road to get to the old cycling path. And a poorly designed one it is, since it is sited further away from the motor carriageway than the footpath. Much of it ends up getting obstructed by the pillars holding the covered walkway, built sometime in 2017. This situation of cycling paths being intruded by metal pillars will be a recurring theme throughout this video, completely ruining the usability of these facilities the moment two cyclists meet in opposite directions. Clearly, there is a poorer attention to detail in these older cycling towns. Perhaps I'll take this time to talk about some construction history of the cycling infrastructure here. The tenders to construct the majority of the cycling path network here were awarded in 2014 under contract PR126, with 2.3 kilometers of cycling paths added on top of the original 1.0 kilometers a few years before, though further extensions have been made and are ongoing right now. But since this Simei Estate hasn't seen much renewal or reconstruction in the cycling paths, unlike other cycling towns like Taman Jurong, Yishun or Tampines, you'll get a good view of terrible designs that were previously used and were thankfully not replicated as much in newer cycling infrastructure projects. Along Simei Street 1, the cycling path requires another unnecessary mid-block bicycle crossing again, this time to enable me to transition from the old grey cycling path to an even older one with a different design. The 1 kilometer long bidirectional cycling path was built in 2013 by the town council on the fringes of land owned by HDB, rather than as part of the road reserve. As you can see, it is very questionable, as the path is narrower than the adjacent footpath and is physically unable to accommodate two cyclists side by side at all. There are other idiosyncrasies with this town council designed path as well. For example, at even the smallest informal crossing, there exists a dismount and push sign, although there has been no such legal requirement since the mid-2010s. You just have to give way to vehicles. Having to dismount and push at every bus stop and road junction will be absolutely ridiculous from a cyclist's perspective. One thing I would like to point out over here is that the width of this particular path really varies along the way. The overgrown roadside shrubs, which aren't set back from the cycling path, aren't helping either. You will see me crash into some of these plants and obstructions, like signs along the way, as I attempt to use the cycling facilities in the way they are intended, keeping clear of the footpath as much as possible. Now, after 9 minutes, I moved from Upper Changi MRT station to the western end of the Simei Estate. You can achieve this timing assuming you are looking at where you are heading and did not crash into these pillars directly in the way of the cycling path or any other obstructions along the way. Bus services 5, 20, and 38 could kind of bring you here in about 10 to 13 minutes, but not between this exact pair of bus stops. You have to walk. Alright, enough ramblings on the cycling paths for now. Perhaps as I continue my journey across Simei, I'll give a brief background on the history of this place, which while termed a cycling town, is actually a mere housing estate the size of a neighborhood, and not a new town, lacking the facilities of a fully fledged town. Administratively, it is just a neighborhood of Tampines New Town. This Simei estate began construction in 1984, and much of the work in the estate took place during the 6th fifth-year building program from 1986 to 1990. People began moving in 1987, with the estate's completion in 1995. Today, the neighborhood center of Simei bustles with life on both sides of Simei MRT station. On the western side, we have a site that was sold to the private sector for retail and commercial development, East Point Mall, which opened in late 1996. But this is only thanks to lobbying by the MP at the time. Before that, all they had was the original neighborhood center east of the MRT station, which opened in late 1988. In the early years before these shopping and marketing facilities here were completed, the residents here would make use of the 3 pedestrian overhead bridges across the Pan Island Expressway to get to the facilities at the neighborhood center of Tampines Neighborhood 1, or the underpass along Tampines Street 31 to get to that of Neighborhood 2. As I now head east of the MRT station, I shall talk about the rather interesting toponymy of Simei. It was originally derived from a pinyin version of a street in the vicinity, Jalan Sun Bi, which itself is named after a man by the name of Tan Sun Bi. This name was then reinterpreted by the housing board into Simei, or the Four Beauties from ancient China. The motifs within the housing estate featured these ladies: Xi Shi, Wang Zhaojun, Diao Chan, and Yang Guifei. You won't believe how many takes I took just to get these Mandarin names right. Unfortunately for the residents then, the street names in Simei were actually named after these ladies with such tongue-twister names. So this street which I'm on was probably named Diao Chan Road. Fortunately, in mid-1987, the housing board renamed the streets to what they are today, Simei Streets 1 through 4. The journey from Simei MRT to the eastern end of the estate took 5 minutes. A comparable bus alternative will be to take Service 5. At this point in time, I would like to quickly apologize if the GPS telemetric map on the bottom right of the screen looks a bit wonky, as it seems that the data recorded on this cycling trip is a little imprecise, especially along Simei Street 4. The southern end of the estate to my left would see quite a bit of private housing. From east to west, there's Simei Green Condo, Double Bay Residences, Tropical Spring, Moderna, and My Manhattan. Here, I approach the neighborhood center once again, completing the traversal of the cycling paths in Changi Simei. There's just one last path in the network as it is today, the Simei Park Connector. But first, let me pass through one of the earliest examples of zebra crossings that are set far back from the footpath, inconveniencing the pedestrians and cyclists along the way. And of course, stop the timer and come to the realization that it takes 3 minutes from the estate's southern end to the MRT station, compared to the 5 minutes on bus service 20 or 38. I briefly approached the pedestrian overhead bridge connecting Simei and Tampines park connectors across the PIE. Currently, it is illegal to ride across this overhead bridge because of the no riding sign, and unlike the dismount and push signs found elsewhere, this one is enforced with a fine. But come 2026, there will be a new cycling underpass through the PIE between Simei and Tampines, allowing for a seamless journey by bike. Works will soon begin, and if I'm still working on this series in the future, the video will probably be remastered to feature that. Now, one peculiar thing about the Simei Park connector near the MRT station is that it branches into two. One map recommends taking the route on the west side, while the signs recommend the east. I will follow the map. Be sure to ride slow here as there's a lot of walkers around. On this last segment across this bicycle traffic crossing, I will travel along the Simei Park connector, which is built completely within the railway reserve of the East-West MRT line. It is surrounded mainly by landed private housing, with the Harvey Estate on the right and the Sunbird Estate further up on the left. The path is wide and smooth, making for a comfortable ride. But up ahead, there's a diversion that will last till sometime between 2024 and 2026. As new railway viaducts are currently being built to connect to the new MRT platform at Tanah Merah MRT station further south. So this will cut my ride short for this video. Worth noting is the plans to repurpose one of the MRT viaducts for walking and cycling. Only time will tell how that will better connect this and Bedok Park connector, which provides a link from this park connector to the East Coast Park. I will now briefly sum up the cycling path network in Changi Simei to be of abysmal quality and not very usable even at low bicycle volumes. But hey, we've got to start somewhere on a journey to becoming more cycle friendly. This is what was built based on the understanding of what is acceptable cycling infrastructure back in 2015, and clearly standards have evolved. Anyways, we are coming to the end of this episode of Cycling Tours. Do subscribe and hit the notification bell, and consider giving us a super thanks. This is Transit Evolution, signing off.